Hello, welcome to DejaCode. We're going to talk today about managing your usage policies in DejaCode. And before we get into that, we'll talk about, well, what is DejaCode and what do we mean by a usage policy? My name is Dennis Clark. I'm the product manager at Nextbee for DejaCode, and I'm looking forward to showing you what we have. Just to give you an idea of what DejaCode is and what it can do and why you might be interested, is that this is where you manage your product inventory and your bill of materials data. It's where you can define and apply license policies, your license policies, to the third party components and private components that you use in your software. And it also gives you assistance with finding out if you've got vulnerabilities. That's not the focus of today, but it's certainly something that we may brush against as we look at our data. And it definitely gives you the ability to generate FOSS compliance documents such as product attribution notices and software bill of materials, also known as SBOMs. It is built in with integrations that connect you with very, very popular and industry standard open source projects, ScanCode.io, Vulnerable Code, and PearlDB. You can implement and deploy DejaCode on-premise, or you can use our SaaS service. And there's a whole lot more information, of course, at the link that you see. What are the benefits? Well, you can keep track of the many, many licenses that you need to know about and how they affect you, and comply with them, and reduce the risk of getting into trouble if you don't do it right. Plus, you want to do the right thing, of course, and DejaCode helps you do that. It provides lots of data. DejaCode provides you with a very comprehensive license library with curated data. We'll be looking at some of that, and also gives you the ability to connect with all the software packages that you use and to scan them and to get the information that you need that's important to you for using them in your products. Okay. I've already mentioned this, the fact that we integrate with others. This gives you a pictorial overview of where that is. ScanCode.io is the engine that makes DejaCode so effective, because that is where we go out and look at packages, software, and pull that into DejaCode. And there are lots of ways to do that. That's not really in the scope of today's demonstration. We may do another one that shows you the integration with all of these. Today we're focusing on usage policies, and but keep that in mind, that there's a lot going on here, not just that. And let's talk about usage policies. Why is it so important to you? It all depends on how you deliver your software. In other words, that's a major aspect of your business requirement. Do you deliver your software on an embedded device? Do you make it available to people on the internet? Do you send them some software that they can install on their own machines, or some combination of all of that? And I'm sure I've left out, it's not an exhaustive list, but in each of those cases, that the way you deliver the software can have an effect on whether a third-party licensed package will work for you, will be okay in your business environment, in the software that you deliver. So licenses are neither bad nor good, but they will affect the your obligations when you actually use them and deliver software. And of course, you know all this, which is why you're watching this. And we're going to show you how we can help you communicate that information to your teams. That's the other thing about DejaCode. It's a multi-user application intended to be used by your legal team, uh, management in general, who are managing software development, and software developers themselves. and probably other people as well. But those are the main users, and each of them might have a different reason for using DejaCode. And so, in this context, your legal folks are going to determine usage policies for certain licenses. Some of that is very easy to come up with, permissive popular licenses, of course. But when you get into copyleft and proprietary licenses, they might need a lot more digging into. Can I use this? Do I need to do something special? And how do I let people know? The other thing is, as you gather information into a product that you deliver, uh, you want to focus on the exceptions, okay, and let DejaCode do the routine work of letting just flowing through all the things that you've reviewed in the past, things that have very popular permissive licenses, and focus on things that maybe you want to think about before you put them in your product and send it out the door. So uh, I want to emphasize that, especially with usage policy, it's really all about your company and what your company wants to do. We're going to take a look at how you do this. Now, we're going to get it first into the administrative aspect, how you set this up. How do you define your policies? And remember, you don't have to get them right the first time. You can do that as you go along and learn things and discover things that you want to do. That's an ongoing process. And how you assign them, and how that assignment to licenses will then percolate, if you will, through the rest of the application. And if you miss any details, don't worry. We have a how-to guide in our user guide online. It's a read the docs format. Uh, very comprehensive. That's step by step. And it will actually back up a lot of the things I'm going to show you today. So, and one more thing before we take a look at the actual product is that what this is going to do is enable you to uh, associate policies with various actions that you want to occur in DejaCode. And we'll see how that happens. Let's take a look at the product. Okay. I am logged into a data space, as NextB calls it, in DejaCode for an imaginary company called Starship. And it's an essential concept in DejaCode is that we provide you, we, NextB, provide you with reference data. You take that reference data and pull it into your own data space where you can do all of your things to apply your interests, your guidance, your policies to licenses and to the packages that you use and to the products that you use or that you create and ship. So let's take a closer look at that. So we're in that data space, and one of the things you're going to have to do is think about your usage policies. Now, you've probably already done that. You've probably got spreadsheets and or documents that you've posted on your own website to your users. Well, this is a way to formalize that and put it into a way that DejaCode can use it. So here we have it. The only people who will get to this are your super user administrators and your legal department that you give this permission to, because this is where you really do define exactly what those policies are. And you give them your own labels. We'll take a look at various ways to approach this in a moment, but let's just start with the way Starship has done it. Here's one called Copyleft Limited Review Required. Oh, yes. As you know, there are licenses that people frequently refer to as copyleft limited. The most common one being LGPL 2.1 and its various family of LGPL licenses. In other words, it's copyleft, but not as strong or strict as a regular copyleft license. Nevertheless, and we describe that here as a guideline to your users. You may have a different way you want to describe copyleft limited to your users, and you're welcome to do that. here in the guidelines. The guidelines are yours. And you can also associate usage policy with an icon. The icon is available from a website called Awesome Fonts. And we support all of them. They're free. And you can define that icon. Now, if that just seems like too much for you, keep in mind you can always just copy things over from our reference data to get you going. And I can quickly show you how to do that in a minute. You can give it a color. A very important thing you can do is decide whether, oh, this is just fine. Let's just give people a warning that they might have to do something, but it's not necessarily a problem to use this in our product. We just need to make sure they're following the rules. So we call that a warning. And I'll show you some others where you don't necessarily do that. And so this is on licenses. The important thing to know about our usage policies is that they apply to what I call different software objects in DejaCode: licenses, packages, and components. Okay. And one flows to the other. So we're looking at license usage policy, but we also have it on packages. Let's look at packages, because I'm going to be drilling down, if you will, on packages. So here's what we call an approved package. Again, you can put guidance there. Notice that it says that, yeah, we approve it, but we're going to count on you to take care of the obligations like change logs and attribution. So this is where you can communicate that policy, and you can certainly do it in more detail. And so I've got what I'm calling an approved package. That means that when anyone using DejaCode looks at that package, and we'll take a look at that shortly, they'll be able to see that the usage policy is approved. If they need to know more about what that really means, they can take a look at it. But essentially, in this context, it means, yes, put it on one of our products and ship it. And we'll take care of the obligations along the way, but we won't have any licensing issues using it in one of the products that we ship, and hence green. And that's why it's got a check circle. So we try to make the icons meaningful to what the policy is about. Again, this is something that you set up, and again, play with it when you first get DejaCode to get it going. If you want to look at how we've set it up in a different way, you can take a look at the reference data. You can do this throughout the admin. You can look at reference data in your own data. And here we have a different way of going after them. There's simple labels: approved, prohibited, recommended, restricted. Prohibited doesn't mean it's a bad license. It just means don't use it in one of our products because it might give us obligations we want. So let's go back to Starship, where we have a somewhat different way of looking at things. What might have been called prohibited here means not suitable for product usage. But that doesn't mean you can't use it internally. And it's up to you to tell your people that. It's up to you to make that policy and describe it here. So we've done a kind of exhaustive thing about the setup. Let's get into how this is actually going to happen when you've done that. Okay. So we've got again, one of the things I want to remind you of is that we do have a user guide. Okay, so if you forget any of this or you need to follow, went too quickly over something, you can get to our user guide from the DejaCode homepage, and it'll cover everything I'm talking about. Maybe not without some of the extra information I'm giving you along the way, but it'll cover the steps that you have to follow. Okay, so let's take a look at what has happened after we assign these to licenses. And I'll show you in a moment how you assign them to licenses. But let's think about someone coming across a license in something and saying, can I use this? Is this okay? What's the company policy on this? And this list that you're looking at is sorted by where the most popular license is first. So obviously Apache license 2.0 is very popular with NextB and many other people because it's the one we use. But most in our open source projects anyway. And there are others, mostly permissive, but then we get into various copyleft limited and copyleft licenses. The ones that you're going to see over and over again as you get third-party software from the world of third-party software all over the internet, like GitHub and PyPy and so forth. And let's take a look at one of these. How about the Mozilla Public License? All right. I chose this one because it is just something that you want to think about when you use it. It's copyleft limited. It actually, the obligations are very light. Okay, but you do need to know that if you modify it, you've got to distribute your modifications to the world. So if you don't want to do that, you need to tell people in your organization not to do that. And you want to make sure that if they're using something under MPL 2.0, that they keep track of that and be aware that if you make any modifications, that code is about to become public. Okay, so that is the point of having guidance and a usage policy on MPL 2.0. This is a typical display of a license in DejaCode. Hope I'm not scrolling too fast, but you're welcome to, by the way, to sign up for our evaluation and explore this on your own. It'll look a little different from Starship, but not that much. We have the complete license text. We have conditions that are important to you to know about and for people using this license to know about. And we have them organized a certain way. The way we have them organized here, by the way, is up to you. We think this is a good way to do it. So you can just accept that, but you can change that. And it'll present what we call license tags. These are just things, yes, no, true, false things that say, does the license have a condition that refers to that? And these are all things that I'm sure you're familiar with. Do you have to do change tracking? Do you have to distribute the source and so forth? Does it have any impact on patent? That kind of thing. And so there you are. Those are the aspects of MPL 2.0. We also provide URLs so that you can get to the original if you want. You can go to community discussions about that. This is a very popular license with a long history. So of course it has those things. Some licenses will have very little of that. The owner is, of course, Mozilla. And here is your usage policy on that license. And you can, again, one thing I want to make clear as well is that this guidance field is in this guidance URL. You might have, this is a Wikipedia, it's just a sample. You might have actually have in your organization a URL to show people where you've done essays on all of this, more about uh, particular licenses or guidance about typical kinds of licenses. You can link to that from here, of course, and you can provide text guidance, and that is yours. So if you copy a license over from net reference data, it's going to leave these alone. That's your data. Okay, as is the usage policy. Nextbee doesn't set usage policies. We don't even recommend them. We just give you the opportunity to do that, and we provide reference notes to help you with that. But it's your responsibility. And of course, it's up to you how you think about a license. And in my experience with our various customers, there are many opinions on what is appropriate for a particular license. So you're going to discover that. Once you've done that, you should know that if you define a package in DejaCode, and you will be, it's going to pick up from scan code. It's going to pick up the licenses, and along with that, it's going to pick up the policy, and it's going to pass it along to that package, and it's going to figure out how to do that. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to take that policy. You can change it on the package itself. For instance, you might have licenses that are or packages under copyleft licenses where you might decide, well, that's okay. We can use that anyway. So let's go ahead and show you how that might be done. I edit this package, and I go in and I find my usage policy. It's down here somewhere. Okay. Uh, if please don't get dizzy if I'm going too fast. And as you can see, we have all the information about that package there, some interest, and oh, here it is. Go right ahead. Use it, guys. And I'm going to update that package. Okay. By the way, that'll show up in the history. Okay. That it's just been done. So uh, it's an important thing to know that everything you do, there's an audit trail in DejaCode. So if I go back to my list and refresh it, I'll find out that that package is now not a particular concern. It basically, I'm letting my team know that they can go ahead and use it. Now, uh, one of the things you also might want to do is provide guidance on um, uh, a package that has a disjunctive license, right? One that has a choice. So on that package, you can say MIT, of course, because GPL 3.0 might be problematic in my context. So you can do that. Or you can put notes to people saying that when you use this, be sure to assert MIT. Things like that. Those are available to you. But notice in particular, though, usage policy. That one's permissive. That one's copyleft. Not everyone understands these licenses the way you do among your team. They're interested in developing software. They're not interested in licenses. So it's up to you to make it easy for them to understand what those licenses are and what they mean in the context of building a product in your company. So, pardon me for the fast scrolling, but we're going to go back to that because I want to show you just one more thing about packages. It's as simple as finding a download URL. This is only one of the ways, by the way, to add a package to DejaCode. There are about 10. But a simple way is to go to your favorite repo, get the download URL for the archive, and stick it in here and click Add. And DejaCode will create the package. It will send off the information to ScanCode.io, which will do its work, and come back and update it with interesting information. So, for instance, uh, if we look at one of these, you'll see that we've got the scan results. And when you're reviewing whether someone can use this package, you may need to dig down a little more deeply if there are a number of licenses. And this one, has a compound license. And so you may want to look at the actual information that's in the original. You may want to take a closer look at that. And we have basically, again, what we call the scan results. This is just one of the ways to get that data into DejaCode. And then once it's there, for you to process it and to evaluate it. This, by the way, is very important. We call these our license clarity score. And again, that might help you decide whether you want to use that and what policy you want to set on that. But normally, I'm getting into exceptions and so forth here. You're going to probably just let this flow through. We found the license. Here it is. Okay, folks. That's the license on this package, and that's going to determine the actions that you take. So let's take a look at a product, which is really where all this is coming to. Yes, here's an imaginary product in Starship. And the one of the things that you'll notice is that this one has 124 objects in its inventory. In this case, they're all packages. And you think, oh, gee, do I need to review all of those? No, you don't. Because you have set up your usage policies to flow permissive licenses with that particular usage policy to a review status of approved in this context. So it's okay. Don't worry about it. The other thing, though, is that remember we talked about compliance alerts. We're going to show you the ones that you really need to look at. And this one has been put into a status of on hold. And you can filter this, by the way, all kinds of things. Those are your statuses. And you can decide that, oh, I better take a look at that. Oh, this one's under MPL 2.0, sorry. And I better take a look at that package as it's used in this product and decide what to do about it. So here's what we call a product relationship. Okay. And it's under MPL and it's on hold. And I might decide, well, that's okay. And I'm going to approve it. And I might put a note. I might want that note to appear in my attribution. That might be a little verbose, but use your own personal style, of course, for that kind of thing. But I want the world to know that I'm using it unmodified, folks. And so here it is, MPL 2.0, and I'm really not all that concerned about the fact that it's under a copyleft limited license. And I've now covered that. This is true of this other one here. You might be noticing, by the way, that there's a little bug next to this one. That's because DejaCode discovered a vulnerability in vulnerable code. And you may want to take a look at that. We're going to look at that real quickly because the focus of this is usage policy, but they're related because you still want to decide, wow, do I want to use this in my product? It's got a vulnerability. Maybe I should do something about that because you may have to report it and do a VEX and all that. Maybe you'd rather catch that before you send it out. So you can see what the vulnerability information is. You can see that there are fixed packages. So one way to handle this, I mean, you can't just magically change it by changing it in DejaCode. Your development team needs to fix it. You could do a request on this, and these, by the way, are just some samples. They have we have a whole system for doing workflow requests, which is not in scope of today's webinar, but these are, if you have forms that you use in your organization, you can set up your own request templates. And this one might be something like, consider a more recent version of this package. This version 4.4.7 has a known typo vulnerability. Check for more recent ones, and you can put what those might be or whatever. Just showing you what you might want to do. Your team needs to decide what they want to use, and the we can assign it to someone on your team to look at. So this could be anyone in your legal team, your management team, but it could be a developer, someone who is in charge of that product, and you can give it a priority. Okay, I'm going to just say it's urgent because it is a vulnerability after all. And so submit that. Off it went. And now it's into our workflow system. And if you look at that package, if you just happen to look at it online, you'll see that, oh, wow, there's activity on it. So not only are you communicating that to some other person, and you can do this with licenses too, by the way. If you have license issues, you might ask them to replace a component with a different one, something under a friendlier license. You have a record of that activity. So if this is resolved to say, hey, this vulnerability doesn't affect our product, it doesn't use that code, you can record that here. Those are the things you can do by using our workflow. So enough of that, but you can do a similar thing, keep that in mind, with your product, with your usage policies as well. So if someone has used something that you're concerned about might be copyleft impact, you can ask, Are you really deploying this, or are you just using it in development, for instance? So you can do a request for that. And once you decide and determine what the answer is, you can put that in. Your usage policies help you do that. Your usage policy can say things like, make sure you don't deploy it, internal use only. That could be your usage policy. Your usage policy is use only unmodified. So at the risk of repetition, uh, that's where I'm going with this. Now, keep in mind then that once you've done that, there are a number of other ways to deal with this. We have, and let me get over to the page where I have it. Yes, we have a report, another seminar, and there's a how-to on how to do your own reports. But the DejaCode provides a report called Product Inventory Compliance Alerts. And this one I've already set up to look at Astrolabe and give me some alerts. So I can, let me refresh this because I approved one of them. And it's just to show you the ones that you haven't approved yet. So there we are. There are two more things to look at. If I need someone else in my company to look at this, there are a number of ways I can handle it. I can do a request. I can just ask them to look at that and edit it in DejaCode, or I can export a spreadsheet and send it to them and ask them to send me the answers back. You have a lot of ways to communicate what you find in DejaCode. Okay, covered a lot of material. Um, I hope I've emphasized the most important things. One, the fact that you have control over your usage policies. And this is one way you can make that happen in your company in a friendly way. You don't want to nag someone about something that they used if you never told them not to use it in the first place, right? So by putting your usage policies on your licenses, you can uh, let your development teams know right away that this is what we need to think about with that. And so, again, be sure to refer to our user guide. There are some interesting things along the way that should be helpful to you as you make use of this feature in DejaCode. And now I'm going to just take a quick look back here to make sure I covered everything I said I would. Yes, and uh, keep in mind then that one of the things you can do with DejaCode is generate attribution notices, which are frequently required by licenses, of course, and software bill of materials, which are becoming more and more important, especially in the vulnerability space. So on this particular sample product that we were looking at, Astrolabe, keep in mind that there are a number of things you can do. One of them is to generate attribution. And now that you have reviewed it and checked all your usage policies, this attribution is probably going to be ready to go. All right. You may want to make a few more uh, uh, tinkerings with the license assignments and so forth. But this is your way of finding out what you're going to do. It's very simple, and you can save this as HTML, and then it, as you can see, it gives you a license summary. You can look through this and go, oh no, not that license. Or you can say, yeah, these licenses look fine to me. And it shows you the different packages will show whether you've made a license choice or not. And so that will be clear to anyone receiving your software that you are asserting MIT, if you do, when you have a choice of MIT or GPL. The other thing you can do of particular importance nowadays is you can generate a software bill of materials, either a Cyclone DX format or an SPDX format, and we follow the latest specifications from them. You can also generate what we call about code files, but that's another webinar. Okay, so uh, one of the things I wanted to point out to you, I talked earlier about how do you get information in. One of the things you can do is import those very same SBOMs that I was just talking about. Cyclone DX, and SBOMs. If someone has sent you a package of software that you want to use in your product and they have been nice enough to include an SBOM in the right format, you can import that into DejaCode. And along the way, what we will do is look at what's in it. We'll create packages where necessary, and we'll add them to your product. Okay. And we will pick up the licenses, and all your usage policies will be there. So, in other words, you're getting a software bill of materials from someone that has what they are declaring to be the licenses, and hopefully they got it right. And you'll be able to see in DejaCode what they're telling you, and you'll be able to evaluate that result in the context of your product, which is what you really care about, of course. So keep that in mind. You can import those. Uh, Software bill of materials is sort of like phone books. They're huge, huge, huge things, but they're machine readable. And that's what DejaCode is doing. It's reading it and interpreting it for you, and it's presenting it to as something that looks a little like, oh, sorry, like this, which is quite easy to use. And you can use all of our various filtering mechanisms to find out which ones do I care about. And there you are.